Okay. Do you remember where we left off? The end of chapter 20. Ava had just found out about her mother in the folder, and then the last line was, then the office door swung open with a bang. 21. Who do you think it is? The lights blazed on, and Ava and Fia stood blinking at Headmaster Orion. Good evening, girls, he said as merrily as if they had run into one another on the way to class. Ava's stomach sank, her pulse racing. Every fiber of her being told her to grab Fia's hand and try to make an end run around Mr. Orion for the door. But she knew there was no getting past him. She had to figure out another way to protect Fia. It's my fault, she said, thinking fast. I wanted to look at my file. I wanted to see what monster I was related to. I was the one who convinced Fia. Mr. Orion held up his hand to stop her. Zale told me everything. Zale? Ava exchanged a sidelong glance with Fia. He ran into your friend Arnold in the boys' bathroom. Arnold was upset, and Zale asked him what was going on. For a split instant, Ava wished she could freeze Arnold. But then she remembered that Zale was the last person Arnold would have willingly confided his feelings in. She was certain force had been involved. Oh, I totally believe that too, don't you? Mr. Orion walked over to where they were standing, plucked the flashlight from Fia's hand, and closed the cabinet. Then he turned and pointed to the other side of his desk. Over there, girls. Let's talk. Ava shot a worried glance at Fia, but Fia just rolled her eyes and stomped around to the opposite side of the desk. Isn't she worried about getting kicked out? Like, seriously. Ava joined her, wishing there was more than just a desk between Fia and Mr. Orion, especially after what had happened with Miss Cleo. She hoped that this time the desk would stay on the ground. I don't blame you, Ava, he continued. Your mistakes are curiosity and not choosing your friends wisely. You would never have betrayed my trust if Fia hadn't snooped around and told you to break in. She didn't tell me to break in, Ava insisted. I wanted to. Fia shook her head. She's lying. It was me. What's she doing? Ava looked at Fia hard, tried to telegraph, you have a lot more to lose than I do. Of course it was you, Fia, Mr. Orion said calmly, and I'm glad you're at least admitting it rather than hiding behind your friend. This is your third strike. I told you last time that you can't keep defying the gods. Fia gave a snort, releasing a curl of smoke. Isn't that what monsters do? Silence, Mr. Orion said. No, Fia said, sparks flying out of her mouth. You can't shut me up. By the power of the gods, nothing more out of you, Chimera, Mr. Orion roared with a wave of his hand. Ava pulled Fia away, backing toward the door. But it was too late. Fia opened her mouth, and her eyes bulged. But neither fire nor words came out. Fia? Ava shrieked. Are you okay? Fia just looked at her with a panicked expression, her chest heaving. Ava turned to Mr. Orion. She'd never yelled at a teacher or even challenged one. But this wasn't about defending herself. It was about standing up for her friend. What did you do to her? Ava demanded loudly. You think we expel students back into the mortal world with their powers? Mr. Orion said, his voice once again calm. That would be irresponsible. Imagine the destruction that would wreak. Students who fail out of the academia are cursed accordingly. You didn't tell us that. We want you to choose good behavior, not to be threatened into it, he eyed Fia. Threats don't work on the worst children anyway. But she can't speak, Ava said as Fia gaped helplessly. A fitting punishment. She's lucky it's not worse. Having her liver eaten every day like Prometheus, or forced to spend eternity in a state of hunger and thirst like Tantalus. She will remain like this forever. Her voice is as dangerous as her powers. Oh. Just because she was kind of a smart alecky little child? You just take her voice forever? I don't think I agree with that. This was why her mom hadn't spoken the first day of school, even to say goodbye. Ava was sure of it now. Mr. Orion had silenced her too, after she'd frozen Mr. Moros. The muscles in Fia's neck strained and her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Ava couldn't bear watching her suffer. Let her speak, she shouted. Let's go back a second to what they just said. So Ava thinks that her mom froze Mr. Moros into stone, and then Mr. Orion put a curse on her mom to keep her from saying anything else until she left. So now Ava thinks that not only did her mom not want to leave her there, but her mom was silenced into telling her she couldn't tell her anything before she left. That's what Ava thinks. Do you think that sounds probable? Not probable? Think about that. Is that a stretch? Anger welled up inside her, a great, unstoppable wave. What right did the gods have to brutally silence her mother, her best friend? It wasn't fair. Fia wasn't the monster. They were. Ava no longer cared about strikes or being a Gorgon or what anyone thought. She fixed her eyes on Mr. Orion, but before she could even try to use her powers, the headmaster turned his back on her. Don't be foolish, Ava. The gods are stronger than you are. I won't even count this as your first strike if you calm down. Give Fia her voice back. Let her stay. You're letting your emotions get the best of you. Trust in the wisdom of the gods. They can do wondrous things. After the mortal king Onapian, Ona, 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 here I go again with one of the words I'm going to mess up. Enopian, maybe, blinded me. The gods eventually restored my sight. Perhaps they will one day see fit to restore your friend's voice. Now say goodbye. Ava turned to Fia. Tears were rolling down her cheeks. Ava was about to throw her arms around her when the door behind them was flung open. Mr. Orion! Miss Cleo shrieked. Fight! Upstairs! Help! The headmaster instinctively turned to face Miss Cleo, but Ava caught him in her stare. Rage filled her, but it wasn't the simple, irrational fury that Athena claimed was Medusa's legacy. It was grief over the prospect of losing her best friend. It was despair over the injustice of how she'd been treated. It was determination to stand up and protect her from harm. Mr. Orion gasped and tried to look back, but it was too late. He froze in place. Oh my gosh, she just froze Mr. Orion. He froze in place, imprisoned mid-turn. Fia threw her arms around Ava, but she didn't speak. Miss Cleo stared wide-eyed at the frozen headmaster. Oh, gods, are we in trouble? Ava tilted her head. Layla? Miss Cleo groaned, confirming her real identity. I knew this was a bad idea. She ran to the door. Arnold, Jax, she hissed, get in here. Arnold and Jax rushed inside, and Layla closed the door behind them. Jax took one look at Mr. Orion and smacked his forehead. Ava, what have you done? He took away Fia's voice. He was going to expel her with no powers and no voice. Cassie's prediction, Arnold said. Fia lost her tongue, meaning her voice. She was actually right for once. Son's really hurting. Sorry. Oh, now I lost my spot. Where was I? Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry. They turned to Fia, who contorted her face. You really can't talk? Layla asked. Fia opened and closed her mouth and shook her head. Ava grabbed a stray paper from Mr. Orion's desk and pen and held it out to Fia. Can you write? They all leaned in, but when she tried to write, nothing came out. Maybe it's the pen, Ava said and tried it herself. This time the ink appeared. Ava threw down the pen. He must have cursed her so she can't express herself at all. Jax turned to her. No matter what Mr. Orion did to her, you still can't freeze the headmaster. You're going to be in so much trouble. I told you to control yourself. Wait, why are you even here? Ava snapped. I told him. Arnold said, pacing around the office. And Layla, too. This is all my fault. After I left you, I ran to the boys' bathroom. Zale came in and heard me I was upset. He hung me upside down out the window again, made me tell him, I'm so sorry, Ava. I really thought he was going to drop me this time. Fia pointed toward the door. Ava understood at once what she was thinking. Where is Zale? She asked. Mr. Orion put him in charge of the ball while he came down and dealt with the two of you, Arnold said. But if Mr. Orion doesn't get back up there soon, Zale is going to come down looking for him, Jack said. Arnold peered at Mr. Orion. How long do you think he's going to stay frozen? I have no idea, Ava said. The last time I did this, the kid recovered an hour or so later. But I was a lot angrier this time. Maybe we could close him up in here and Layla could tell Zale she's in charge. Even if that buys you a little time, Mr. Orion's going to know what happened when he comes to, Jack said. What were you and Fia thinking? Mom told you not to lose control. Mom didn't tell the truth, Ava interrupted. I found her records. She ran away, Jax. She didn't even like it here. They made her be good. Jack shook his head. Maybe she just wanted a normal life, the kind you can have by following the rules. You're not listening to me, Ava said. She ran away to some place called Poveglia? Cleo corrected me, but I can't remember what it is. Poveglia? Layla said. Poveglia. I think that's it. Poveglia. You know it? Ava asked. Layla winced. It's an abandoned island in the lagoon, a medieval plague island where victims were left to die. Then it became the site of a really horrible insane asylum where the patients were tortured, supposedly haunted. Why would you go there? Ava asked. It doesn't matter, Jack said. You're just going to get in more trouble if you try to find out. No more of this. Let's find the real Miss Cleo and no, Ava said. We need to help Fia and find out about Mom. Ava, Jack said through gritted teeth, I was sent here to make sure you don't get into trouble. I'm telling you this has to end here. I don't need you to babysit me, Ava interrupted. You act like you're so much smarter than me, but I'm stronger than you and braver than you too. And also more of a monster, Jax added. Then he turned around and walked out. And you're trying to be less of a monster, Ava called after him. That's my choice, and it was Mom's too, Jack shot back. Maybe you should try it sometime. That wasn't a choice. Orion silenced her too, Jax. She couldn't even say goodbye to us. From the way his shoulders tensed, she knew he'd taken this in, but he refused to face her. You're up against the gods, Ava. You're never going to win. Your friend Fia should have known that. You need to face the consequences. Coward! She shouted after him. Ava, Layla said gently, he's got a point. There's not much we can do to get out of this. But there must be something we can do to help Fia before Mr. Orion comes to and sends her away, Ava said. What? Layla and Arnold asked in unison. Ava thought for a long moment. Then she turned to Layla. Can you keep Miss Cleo's form? I think so. I've been working on controlling my shape-shifting. Good. I want you to perp walk me and Fia down the hall. Arnold, take Mr. Orion's keys and lock him in. We need to slow down Zale when he finally comes looking for Mr. Orion. Where are we going? Layla asked. Ava took Fia's hand and gave it a squeeze. To the only God who might be able to help her. Chapter 22. Cleo, Miss Demi said with a look of surprise. What happened? Are these two in trouble? Layla shoved Ava and Fia through the door of her office. Yes, she said, but it's me, Layla. Miss Demi sighed. Oh, Layla, I told you not to transform into teachers. You'll get a strike. Arnold ducked in after them. It's a little late for that. Ava poured out the story, and Miss Demi's eyes widened when Ava came to the part about her mom's file. Then Mr. Orion bursting in on them. When she explained how the headmaster had taken away Fia's voice before expelling her, Ava noticed a flash of anger across Miss Demi's face. It confirmed she had come to the right place. Can you help her get her voice back? Ava pleaded. I'm not strong enough to reverse this magic, and even if I was, I would anger Zeus. But there is something you can do. Take Fia to Poveglia. To the island where her mom went? What? Poveglia? Where my mom went? Yes. There's someone there who may be able to help Fia, but I'm bound by my oath to Zeus not to tell you more. Layla shapeshifted back into herself. But no captain would ever agree to take them to Poveglia. No one is allowed there. Venetians are really superstitious about it, too, including me. Is there someone else who could help? I'm afraid not, Miss Demi said. Can you get us there? Ava asked. I mean, if no captain will go. If I did, I'd be breaking faculty rules, and Hades would keep Persephone in the underworld even longer than he already does. But I don't know how to get to Poveglia without you. I do, Layla said quietly. I'll take you. Ava turned to her. Are you sure? Layla sighed. You clearly need me, and so does Fia. Arnold stepped forward. I'm coming too. Fia frowned. Ava knew she was probably thinking that he'd lose his nerve again halfway there, but it was also obvious that he genuinely cared and wanted to help. It was just that he had no powers to protect them or himself either. Ava couldn't stand the idea of him getting hurt. You're in the least trouble of all of us, she said. Zale already hung me upside down over the stairs tonight, Arnold said, so I'd actually feel safer with you. Ava had to admit he had a point. Take him, Miss Demi said. You will need all the help you can get. When you get to Poveglia, have him stay outside the insane asylum as a lookout. Layla blinked nervously. The insane asylum? We need to go in there? Miss Demi nodded. I promise you'll be safe, and though I can't help you in big ways, I can still help you in a small, invisible ones. Miss Demi ran over to her desk, unlocked a drawer, and rustled around in it. There's something I've been saving for you, Ava. As soon as I find it, I want you to go. Sorry, Arnold, Ava whispered to him once Miss Demi was out of earshot. I forgot to check her file. I meant to, and then Mr. Orion. It's okay, he shrugged sadly. I think I'll always be powerless anyway. But I still don't like what Mr. Orion did to Fia. Maybe there's some other way I can help. Miss Dibney raced back over. Here it is. She handed Ava a golden mask. It was shaped like a human skull with empty sockets for the eyes and nose and long, lipless teeth. But I already have a mask, Ava said. This isn't a carnival mask. It's from my daughter. Only you can wear it, Ava. Fia, take this. She handed Fia a small silver lighter. You've lost your fire, child, but not your spark. You may find this useful, especially on Poveglia. Thank you, Ava said. You've been so kind to me and Fia, too. Thank you for your help. Miss Demi glanced at Fia, then back at Ava. I was too scared to help your mother, but I wanted to. She opened her door and scanned the hallway before glancing back at Layla. Quickly now, transfer back into Miss Cleo and escort them out the back door. Layla obediently transformed. Ava noticed she had become much more controlled about it, then waved Ava, Fia, and Arnold after her. Miss Demi followed them into the hall, but headed off in the opposite direction toward the staircase. They had gone only a few yards when Ava heard voices coming down the stairs, then a rumbling, tense voice breaking out of the pack. Miss Demi, have you seen Mr. Orion? Zale asked. No, Zale, Miss Demi said. I thought he was upstairs at the ball. He came down to, hey, is that Ava, Fia, and Arnold down there? Steady, Ava whispered to Layla and Arnold. Don't run. Miss Cleo is with them, Miss Demi said. They seem to be in some sort of trouble. Ava waited for Fia to whisper, well, at least that's part of the truth. But then she remembered that Fia couldn't say anything at all. Ava ached to hear her sharp, funny voice again. Big trouble, Zale said. Maybe he's in his office. Layla led them around the corner out of sight, and they picked up their pace. Layla loping in a way Ava could never imagine the real Miss Cleo doing, until they reached the back door. They stopped for a moment and scanned the hall. Leaving the academia without permission was a multiple strike-worthy offense. But in a single evening, Ava had already racked up a long list of equally serious offenses. There was no turning back. Miss Cleo! The voice behind them made Ava jump. She whirled around to find a tall, white skeleton in a white ball gown holding a grim reaper sickle. Fia was the first to recover her wits. She waved at the skeleton, and then Ava recognized its blue eyes and long black hair. Fia, Cassie said. Where are you going? Ava jumped in to answer for Fia. Miss Cleo asked us to help her with some, she looked helplessly at Layla. Decorations, Layla said, for the ball. I can help too, Miss Cleo, Cassie said. Thank you, Cassie. I have enough helpers, Layla said. Go back upstairs. But Cassie didn't move. Her eyes were losing focus, becoming glassy. Fia shook her, but it was too late. Cassie's eyes rolled back